Okay, we got a 2005 Honda Civic. Both front strut coil springs are broken right near the top. Anyways, I've replaced the passenger side, but I'll do the driver's side now. Okay, here's the tools I used. First of all, the sockets. Use a 22 millimeter and the 3/4 inch wrench for the big bolts on the struts. 14 millimeter socket to get the tops on the towers. Unbolted the 3 nuts that hold the strut on the top. The 15, because the new struts come with one size larger nuts. And a 17 for the tie rod. And then there's the 12 mil 3/8 drive on the ratchet. That's to hold the brake line on the bracket. Side cutters to get the cotter pin out. And the drill is if you have to snip the cotter pin out, which you usually do, then you can just drill that out and put a new one in. I forgot to mention the 3/4 inch socket to get the wheel off. And another thing I forgot to mention, see there's some WD-40 penetrating oil. I prefer Seafoam Deep Creep. I found it works way better. And it worked by just trying to twist that cotter pin, and I finally got it to come out. Another thing is once you get use the 17 mil socket and get the cotter pin out first, then get the nut off for the tie rod, give it a good hard whack. I'm holding the camera here, so give it a good hard whack. Right there, not on there, and don't hit it below, you'll wreck the threads. Right on there, and then it'll, I just gave it a hard whack and then it'll pop, it should pop right off. And then I undo the little bolt with the 12 millimeter socket that holds the bracket for the brake hose. Then next I undo the 2 bolts, 22 mil socket and a 3/4 inch wrench. Those should just push out. They're not eccentric, so there's no adjustment on them. One of the other things I like to do is put a bungee cord around the rotor and the hub. That way, when you take the bolts out, it won't come right. Even if it does the other side, it did come out and the axle came apart on me on the inside. But you can just wiggle it and it will go back in. That's just a little more fussing around. So this way I can kind of guide how far that the knuckle and rotor come out. There, now you just move the 14 millimeter socket you use to get those 3 nuts off. Then it'll start to drop down, and now that I have the bungee cord there, I can kind of guide it so that axle doesn't pull apart, hopefully. There, I did that by myself, but it'd make it a lot easier if you get somebody to help you start those nuts while you're holding that up there. I did lift it up from the back side, if that helps. Then I zip these 3 nuts back on the top of the strut. Okay, when you buy these struts, whether new or used, 03 to 05, they will fit. The 01 and 02 ones will fit. We've made them work. I can't remember which way around, but the difference we found is these studs here are a different size. If the studs are larger, like if you're putting the newer ones into an 01, I believe what we did was just drill those 3 holes out a little bit just so those studs go through. The other way around, it would be really sloppy. I wouldn't do that. And don't forget to put a new cotter pin in after you zip the nut up. If you can't zip that nut up, if the whole tie rod starts to move, just use a clamp like this and suck it up tight. That'll help. And always a good idea to put some never sees, not a lot, just a bit, onto all the wheel studs. That way you won't get that phone call at 3 in the morning when it's pouring rain. Somebody has a flat tire and they can't get the wheel nuts loose. As you can see, the old ones, both of the coil springs were broke right near the top. Going down the highway, you didn't notice anything, but if you turn and went over a bump at the same time, yeah, you'd hear it snapping. There, job's done. I don't know, total of about half hour. Don't get frustrated if it takes you an hour or more. I got lucky there. And like I said, I've been doing this over 50 years. So I would get a torque, look up the specs and torque the wheels. And if you want, I just check the toe in on here. Usually, if it makes any difference, it'll usually be still within specs. Usually about a 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch maximum difference. But usually it's not, this one didn't change at all. Hopefully that helps.